Hello, I'm Naman Shah. I'm an author. I have just published my first book, Lift Your Life Up, which is live on Amazon. And yes, I'm 13 years old.
Hello, Naman. Glad to be
Yeah,
here
hi.
with you. Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. So, can we start for the
Yes,
interview?
yes, please.
Yeah. Once I was just sitting in the meditation, I had some many questions in my mind which were just running out there. So I've just written them and I'm just going to ask you. My first question is, how can we change our mindset?
See, the mindset is, an accumulation of your learnings, your knowledge, a collection of your memories, and how you apply to them in your day-to-day life. So, what we gather in our life, what we learn, what we see, that is what we remember, and it's a collection of memories. And out of that, what we recall, how we apply that in our life is what your mindset is. So what kind of memories you store in the first place is
Yeah,
important. Do you store positive memories or the negative ones? What do you recall at the time
yeah,
when you need that learning? What do you recall? Do you recall something positive? Do you recall something possible? So these are the things that make your mindset. And how you improve them is, of course, you filter your memories, you filter your learnings, you apply them in a positive manner in whatever you do, whatever if you face a problem. So first of all, you should be confident that you know something about this problem. Okay, then
yeah.
then you recall certain instances, and then you see how others have successful people have done. So this is how you
Mm.
you know improve your mindset gradually.
It's just like a software, right?
Yeah, it is a combination of hardware, software, a lot of energy flowing through all the cells in the body. It's a very complex structure.
Mm. Yeah, that was a perfect answer for my question. Thank you. Yeah, so let's begin with the second question. How can we clean ourselves from inside and make it positive? Because we have just too many negative vibes in ourselves which people give us. So it's just like every day we take a shower that cleans the dirt from our outside. So how can we take a shower which goes inside and just pulls out all negativity down?
See, the first thing is don't let your inside get polluted.
Yeah.
Cleaning comes next. So with so much of thing happening around, now there was a pandemic around, people were taking precaution. They were wearing a mask, they were using some sanitizer, they were distancing themselves. Now, distancing was such an important thing that we learned. So why can't we distance ourselves from negative people? If you know somebody is
Yes.
there, if you know somebody is there who can only pull you down, who can break your confidence, then do not sit with him for too long. Now, I'll tell you one instance in Mahabharata. There was a charioteer for Karna, and he happened to be the uncle of Nakul and Sahadev also. Now, that
Yeah,
person
yeah.
always reminded Karna that, oh, you are not the best. Arjuna is better than you. He's got Krishna by his side.
Mm.
And he kept on eroding the confidence of Karna, which he was like one of the reasons why Karna lost against Arjuna. So if there is a negative person, if you know that person is there to rob you of your confidence, if he is there to pollute your mind, practice some distancing, first of all. Secondly, if at all you are getting affected, then counteract it with your positive energies. You can develop some more energies through meditation. As you said, you do your meditation. So when you meditate, you look inwards. When you look inwards, obviously there is light going inside you. And where there is light, there is no darkness. So this is how you can cleanse yourself inside.
Yeah. It's just like awesome inside shower, which
Yes.
I would try through meditation tomorrow. Thank you once again. Yeah. The third question is, how can we develop an observational skill which would help us everywhere? In this question, I mean not only by observing anything else, by also observing your thoughts inside your subconscious or your mind. How can we observe them just in a spotlight so it can give us learnings which we can apply in our life?
You see, mindfulness. Mindfulness is being cautious about what you are thinking, what you are doing. So when you are mindful about what you are doing, now, see, if like a process of eating is very simple, you put something in the mouth, you chew it, you swallow it. Now, what is mindful eating? First of all, you know what you are eating, whether it is right for you. The second way is whether you are focused on your chewing, whether you are rightly turning that solid food into a liquid before you swallow it. Now, that's the right way of eating, right? Like that, mindful observation. Now, there is a difference between see and look and observe. So see is a very physical process. Some light goes into your eyes and you see. Look means you are seeing with some determination, some interest. You are looking at it. And observing is you are looking with the intent to understand and know. Right? So this is how you become more observant. And once you observe more, you collect more confounded memories, you collect more information, you collect more positive energies. So that is how, this is the power of observation. And you as an author also, you will totally agree that, the power of observation is something which is very mandatory and very basic for anybody to, even start understanding yourself.
Yeah, this is absolutely right. And the power of observing is just beyond. Yeah. The fourth question is, what is the definition of happiness and success for you?
Now there are two different things. Success is you have a target to achieve something, you achieved it, and that is success. Okay, if you have an examination, you need you need certain marks out of certain marks. Now that is success. Okay, you are looking for a job, you got that job, that is a success. You wanted to earn certain amount of money, you earned certain amount of money, that is success. So success could mean totally different things for different people under different circumstances. Right? Now, what is happiness? Suppose you eat something good, you feel happy for the time being. But what happens afterwards? Do you remain happy forever? Or you read something good, you feel happy, and what happens? Do you stay happy forever? So that happiness is not true happiness, that is just fulfillment for the moment. So you are fulfilled for the moment. You've written something good, you read something good, or you heard something good, you did something good. You feel a moment of satisfaction, and that is fulfillment. But happiness is something more profound. It is not a reaction to certain external occurrence, a person or a thing or a circumstances. It is not a reaction to that. It is something, are you content with within yourself? Do you have that foundation of peace inside you which can keep you content for ever without anybody interrupting or intervening in your life? So that is what the holistic happiness is about.
I would add something. I've seen many people which they are happy that I have lots of money. I am happy. I will just earn certain amount of money. For example, 30 crores. I'll earn this for this time. They succeed, but what about happiness? They don't understand for that moment that money can't buy happiness. When they succeed, when they have all the money, they then acknowledge that, yeah, I have all the money, I've succeeded, but I don't have happiness. As my observation, I've seen many poor people which do not have money, but they are happy with their living. They are living in their small houses. They don't have a proper livelihood, but still they are happy with your life.
That you
But
are
some
right in your
people,
observation.
yeah,
You are right in your
some people
observation.
have everything, but they are not happy.
So that is what I said. Acquiring something material is not necessarily happiness. Okay, that could be success, that could be a moment of fulfillment, or that could be a longer moment of fulfillment. But happiness is something where you are happy for no reason. If you see a small baby, he can hardly do anything, he has nothing with him. But how happy he looks, except for some moments of physiological uh, requirements of food or whatever it needs, a wash or a cleanup, that's all. So otherwise the baby is very cheerful, very happy in itself. So that is the default state of mind every human is born with. People accumulate a lot of negativity, lot of pollution inside, and the default happiness is somehow clouded with other things. You do not realize, you do not discover it. But once you start looking inwards, once you implore into yourself, you discover your inner happiness. Then you find back something which you have lost in your childhood. And then people are so happy to find that inner happiness in them. It is always there. When we were born with it. It's like a crystal ball. It was covered in dust. You pick it, you clean it up, and it shines again.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. My next question is, how can we take failures and mistakes in a positive way?
See, failures and mistakes, anybody is susceptible to making a mistake. Anybody is vulnerable to facing a failure. So what do? Once suppose, as you say, failures are stepping stones to success. Why do you say that? Because you see, once you have failed, now it is a time to introspect. Now, what is the outcome of that? Whether you want to repeat uh, trying once again, or you want to give it up, try something else. Okay. So you failed in something, you have a choice. You have to make a choice whether you want to give up that thing and try something better or another thing, or you want to try again in a better way. So one has to choose between one of these two. And the third thing is, the sense of dejection, where you do nothing. You neither choose another way, you neither choose to repeat and do that in a better way, but you are simply getting dejected and depressed. Oh, I failed. So, which is better? I think feeling dejected and giving it up and doing nothing is not what a human being is made up for. Human being was brought into this earth by whatever sources of energy, and they evolved within themselves. They failed so many times at so many things. We are seeing at internet, we are seeing at electricity, we are seeing at waves. But imagine somebody who discovered fire. Did he create fire by rubbing two stones together? And did he create fire in the first time he did it? No. He tried it so many times. So many times he got the spark, but then he could not transfer the spark into something else. So it was a process of trying again in a better way. The first aircraft, the first spaceship, the first submarine, they all took so many trials. Nobody succeeded for the first time in a grand way. Everybody took time. They reiterated it and they tried again in a better way. So this is the attitude that one has to develop towards handling a failure.
Yeah, I would just like to add the example you gave of the two stones and a spark. the people, that's a sad reality about people. Some people do their job. They add friction to the stones. The spark gives up, but it doesn't create in fire. Some people, it doesn't create a fire. Now, I am not sad. They will not try again. They will try once, twice. Now, that's okay. I should, uh, I should achieve what I want in just a second because everything takes times. The mentality over them is really needs to change.
That's what I
So,
said. It has to be
in
an
this interview,
attitude.
yeah,
It has to be an attitude of the person to see, instead of getting dejected and giving up, one has to find a better way of doing it. Find the cause of your failure. Try to analyze why it failed, and then you can certainly look for a better way of doing it, and you can deal with failure in that way.
yeah. My next question is, how can we stop overthinking? Because I know things like we are thinking too much of positive thinking is not overthinking. That's good. But when people appear to be start thinking too much negatively, it starts an overthinking, and that's a disease which is not shown outside, but it's a very big disease inside your brain. That your thoughts are just you can't understand yourself in that overthinking, and that disease is normal, but it has no cure if there is no mentor.
See, the brain is designed to think continuously. Whatever is your storage of information, the brain keeps processing it. Now, it also sends out signals for reacting to what you have thought. So what happens is you are thinking about something and then you have a reaction. Either you are happy with it or you are terrified with it because you put your emotions behind your thoughts. Okay, now if you overdo it, what happens? If you overdo it, then you are overreacting to what is a possible outcome. Now, what happens is, say a person is going to do some work, or say a student is going to write an exam. Now, what will be the outcome? Either he will do well or he will not do well. Okay, so you start thinking in one channel that if I do well, I will do this as the next step after this exam, after clearing this exam. This is what I am eligible to, this is what I will do. Another thought process is the other one. What if I do not succeed? And then what if I do not succeed? Then you get terrified with it. Will my parents scold me? Will my school hold me back? Will my school expel me? Same things in job. Somebody is handling a job. Okay. If I'm doing this work, will my organization accept it or will they reject it? If they reject it, will I lose my job? What if I lose my job? I will have no livelihood. So this is what you are telling overthinking is. So some brain is processing certain outcomes, but how much you are reacting in what way? Now reaction is somewhat your own choice. The involuntary processing of information in the brain is not your choice entirely. But how do you react to it is your choice. So if you control your reactions, if you don't get terrified with things, or wherever you feel a doubt, you try to build up additional confidence. If you start thinking about a plan B, what if this doesn't work? What will I do next? Now that is not overthinking. That is clever thinking. If plan A doesn't succeed, I should have a plan B. What should I do next? Right? I think that should be a good way to avoid overthinking in a reactive manner.
Yeah. The next question is, what helps to bounce back when things are going really bad? as you are a respectful and bestseller author of 2 books, so you must have faced many mistakes or failures. But what appears to be the thing that gives the motivation to you or inspires you to bounce back?
You see, when you are down, life is a series of ups and downs. Life is not never a straight line for anybody. It is always a series of ups and downs. So what happens? You sometimes go down. It could be any of your pillars of life, your health, your relationship, your career, all different pillars of your life. If one of them breaks for certain reason, so what do? You have to build it back. They are pillars of your life, and you know that you need those pillars to support your life. So you have to build it back. So once it goes down, now you have to sit, analyze, okay, what went wrong? Say relationships. You have a fallout in a relationship, or you have a soured relationship with somebody, a friend or whoever. Now you know that you need those relationships for your happiness. So what do? You build it back. You make efforts to build back certain relationships that you require. Okay, like that, your health. Somebody, takes illness, very severe illness. So what does he do? He will try to take the necessary steps, take the necessary medication, try to build back the health, regain a good health, build up a strong body. So this is what a resilient person has to do. Now, resilience is very important when you are in a low. Resilience is something which sort of stops you from breaking away and brings you together. Whatever resources you have, resilience brings it back together. Combine your forces, combine all your learnings, knowledge, your abilities, bring them into a formidable force. And that is how you bounce back.
I'm not able to hear your voice. Can you just repeat your last sentence?
Yes, as I said, that when a person is down below with something, he needs resilience. So resilience is what helps you to stop from scattering. It helps you to bring back all your resources together, all your learnings, all your skill, all your physical abilities, all your mental abilities, bring them together and then restart, rework on it. This is how you bounce back in life.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is, how can we control our mind to stay calm in every situation? I was seeing the match, uh, India versus New Zealand, the last match of MS Dhoni. As he got out, many people were upset, many people were angry. But I've observed many matches of MS Dhoni. He stays calm in every situation. So, how can we just be that? How can we stay calm in every situation? Because ideas, when we want ideas in a bad situation, we need calmness. Sometimes in a incident, accident, many people have no calmness. They are not steady, so they don't have ideas. Same is with me. I have learned everything the year ago when I was in fifth standard, or sixth standard, sorry, where I learned everything. My weakest subject is Hindi, so I learned everything about it. I did everything about it, but when I started writing, when the paper was shown to me, I was just like, what is the answer of this question? And the same thing, I've done that question 5 to 6 times at home. So on that incident, I don't stay calm. I just do many silly mistakes in the paper, the silly grammatical mistakes, and end up scoring less marks.
Okay, there are two things about it. One is calmness, and one is what you narrated in your particular instance. So practice makes perfection. Okay, you are good at what you practice. Now, if you see Dhoni, what does he do? He plays a match, a 1 day match or a 5 day series. But for playing that 1 day match, imagine how many days of practice he has done behind the nets. It is not that he was doing nothing and playing nothing, and then one fine day he comes and plays down a match. No, it's not like that. He puts in hours of hard work, and not only hard work in terms of playing cricket, hard work in terms of developing fitness. He must be running, he must be doing various kind of exercise, yoga, to tone up himself, to develop some kind of fitness, to become energetic. And then he knows the field craft of the game. He watches the games of so many people, so many matches, whether he's attending in the stadium or not. I'm sure he watches every match that is played in the world, and he tries to study and read every player how he has played. So, beyond reading books, he reads the game, and that is how he stays calm. So, what happens is for a person to stay calm, you have to develop an all round fitness. Okay, a healthy body contains a healthy mind. So, first of all, you need to have a healthy body. Okay, then you need a strong mind, you need a strong determination. You should have the habit of you know engaging in the right kind of practices in the field that you are. Okay, the more you practice, the more you are good at it. And this is how you develop confidence. By doing all these things, you develop confidence. So once you are confident, once you know that what you are doing is right, then you are not worried about the consequences, right? If you are driving from one city to another city, if you know your driving skills, if you are sure about the weather, and if you know the route, and if you know your vehicle very well, then what happens? You have a smooth drive and you reach the destination. Okay. Now, what if your vehicle condition was not good? What if you did not fill petrol properly? What if you don't know the route? So, if one of these things are lacking, you will take longer time, you will face more hardship, you will be terrified, you will be worried. So, if you are confident with what you are doing, if you know, then you are not worried about the outcome. And when you're not worried about the outcome, then you are calm. If you're not confident, like now I come back to your question, if you are not confident that now, first of all, you had a mindset, okay, this particular subject is something which is not my strong forte. Okay, for whatever practice you did, maybe you needed more practice out of that until you became confident. So you went with somewhat lesser confidence and you were terrified with the outcome. What if I do not perform well? Now that terrified outcome, the feeling of terrified with the thought of that negative outcome probably led you into overthinking, and probably it took away your ability to perform.
Yes. The next question is, how can we focus on our goal and avoid distractions? As I just try to study, but social media just distracts me out. Like Instagram, that distracts me out that I have to post this, I want to post this, I want to gain followers, I want to do this. And just by seeing one thing, I get distracted by another. I go to another, and I go to somewhere else which is not in my interest. I just keep on seeing, and when I see the time, it has already passed 2 hours, and I'm just like, oh my god, I've wasted so many time. What should I do? And then I lead to overthinking. So this is the main question I had about how can we focus on our goal and avoid distractions.
Okay, to avoid distraction, you can just keep it away. So if your mobile phone is something which gives you distraction, lock it up into another room, give it to your mother to keep it in her cupboard. Okay, don't take it back. And suppose you've got online classes, you take a laptop, you just log into your online classes on that without your phone by your side. So this is how you take care of distraction. You have to distance yourself away from the distraction. Now somebody, this, if there are too many people in the home and they are all chit-chatting and talking, do you think you can study by sitting in between them? No, you cannot. So you have to get up and go to some corner of the house and sit there and study. Okay, these are another distraction. Now there is some inner distraction. Suppose you are terribly hungry, you cannot focus on your study. So you go take some small bite and be relaxed, be satisfied, and then come back to study. So what is the cause of your distraction? You have to put it away. Whatever is your cause of distraction, you have to put it away. Now, once you do that, you will be able to focus better. And now talking about goal setting is something where you know your abilities, you know your destination, and now you have to create the path. Okay, this is the basis of goal setting. You know your ability, you know what you want to achieve, and now you have to draw a path from your ability to your achievement. And how do you do that for sure is you have to back it with your emotions. You need that emotion, you need that determination that this is my goal and this is what I have to achieve, and I am happy if I can achieve. So once it is backed with sufficient emotion and it is not just a casual desire, then it becomes a determination, and where there is a determination, then there is a success.
Yes, thank you very much for the answer. This just perfectly fits to my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is, how can we control our mind? This is 2 minutes. The last question is, how can we stay motivated all the time? Because if we listen to any motivational videos, we feel motivated 10 to 15 minutes, even more, even 30 minutes. But what then? Then we don't feel motivated. For example, if I listen to any motivational video for my studies, which motivates me for an hour, more than an hour or something that, and then I am just demotivated. And then I'm not focusing on studies and the outcome is not good. So how can we stay motivated all the time?
Now, as I was just telling you about your goal setting, so you have a goal, okay? Like you said about your studies. So you have a goal that you want to study and you want to study to perform good in certain exam. Or more than that, what you should have a goal is you want to study for sake of gaining that knowledge of what you are studying. Okay, so you are studying for passing an exam is a very smaller objective. You are studying for mastering that knowledge is a deeper objective. So which one do you think you will achieve better? If you have a deeper objective that you want to master that certain subject, that particular subject. And when you want to master that subject, then there is a depth of emotion behind it. So once you put your emotions behind it, and then you are more focused into it, then you are internally motivated. What happens, from external motivation is you get a perspective. But have you bought into that perspective permanently? Or do you share that common perspective with that person who is giving you that motivational talk? So if you actually share that perspective, if you believe in that, and if you have your strong emotions behind your determined objective, then you will be motivated from within. Like you published a book. Did somebody tell you to publish a book? Did somebody demand that book from you? How did you manage it? You had the inner motivation, the inner drive. You believed in yourself that you have things to tell to the world. Why does one write a book? You believe that you have things you want to share with others. You have found some knowledge you want to share with others. That is the primary objective of writing a book. So that is what motivated you. And the same kind of motivation should help you for other things in life.
Yeah, thank you very much for your answers to the questions. These all questions were all barriers of my life, which you, as a mentor, you have all just had down my barriers. I have just going far from the barriers, and now I can just give a better on my studies in my life. And these all questions are very main for my life because I this all are my main problems which I was not able to solve. So this and yeah, thank you.
I'm glad I could be useful, I could help. I love to help people who want to seek answers from me. So people who read my book, they also get answers to their questions. And whoever needs to know further can always contact me. So thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure talking to you. You know, you are a small boy with so much of profound understanding about life, and I appreciate it very much. God bless you. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you very much.